For many positions, movement is so key. And so in this video, we're going to be going over how to have good movement in football for your position specifically. Because again, if you don't, it's just going to limit what you can do on the pitch. That's coming up next. So before we jump into it, my name is Dave and this is Simplysoccer, where I'm creating videos every single week to help you improve your game and stand out on the pitch. As always, if you haven't already, get my free ebook, Game Changer, down below. It is a 50+ page ebook full of drills, practices, and so much more that are going to help you. Now, let's jump into the topic for this video, how to improve your movement. It's such an important component of the game. It's off the ball kind of stuff, but still really important. Let's jump into it. So the first thing I want you to do is study movement for your position specifically, because it's going to be different for every single position. The movement of a striker playing a certain role is going to be different than a winger or a midfielder or a right or left back. You know, there's going to be different levels of movement. Now, there's going to be certain things that are the same, certain opportunities, for example, when you can overlap a man that will be the same for everyone, getting into space and creating passing lanes, but there will be specific things for certain positions. For example, again, striker is going to be radically different than a lot of other positions because your goal is usually different than, say, a center midfield player who might be seeing a lot more of the ball. So you want to start studying players in your position that you're trying to emulate and start looking at their movement. What are they doing to get themselves free? You know, what space are they running into? What kind of runs are they making? When are they checking back? When are they spinning in? You know, where are they out wide or are they more central? You know, start looking for these when you're studying players and really look at your position to give yourself an idea of what you should be doing or what some best practices are. Now, number two is always be scanning for space. You know, I talk about this a lot in awareness videos, or if you want to get the ball more, but it should be always scanning, because if you want to know what runs to make, what space to go into, you need to know what's on the pitch. Because you might notice, for example, you're a winger and the right back that's meant to be covering you is falling asleep and maybe going more towards the center, and it's giving you a chance to make a run down the wing or possibly even towards goal. And so you want to be paying attention to these opportunities by always scanning. For example, if you're in the middle of the park, players are always doing this. You could watch a Lampard, for example, who was amazing at just kind of always being aware of what's around him and then quickly getting into pockets of space. I've even seen times where he allows players to kind of mark other players and he'll trot around like he's, you know, I'm not dangerous, don't worry. And then he will be in open space because everyone around him is moving, or he'll burst into the space. And so you always want to be looking around to see what's around you, to where the space is. You might even be in a pocket of space because someone else turned off. Someone else just, you know, is focusing on something else or got drawn to something, and now they've moved away from you. Now you can call for the ball. Now you can create a passing lane. And so you want to start, again, always be scanning for that awareness. It's not just to know where the opposition and your teammates are, it's also to know where the space is or where you also think it's going to be, which you'll get a feel for the more that you play and the more that you do this. So make sure you hit that like button if you're enjoying this video so far or it resonates with you or you're getting something out of it, and we'll move on to number three. Three is to look for the window of opportunity. This is especially going to be the case if you're a more attacking player. For example, for a striker, you might need just a quick burst to get an inch ahead or a foot ahead of a defender to get your toe on it to poke it into the goal. You know, it might be the same if you are trying to get a first-time cross in. You might just need that little bit of momentum, that quick run, that quick movement to get just the edge on the right or left back to get to the ball first and then cross it in, or to be in a better position. And so you're looking to make certain actions very quickly. Again, there's times when players will move away from you and you'll just be in the space. But if you see the window of opportunity to burst into space, to make that quick run, you know, as a striker, so you want to look for these opportunities as well. And it won't apply for every single position. This is more in an attacking sense, a lot of times to get in behind the defense or to get into a favorable position. But look for those opportunities to really burst into space. Number four is to create passing lanes. There will be times where there is a player blocking the obvious pass to you. This happens a lot for midfielders, and it's to check back or to check into space again and create passing lanes so there's no real opportunity for an opposition to really intercept it. And again, it sounds so simple, but I see a lot of players not doing this, where they're not creating the angle, creating the passing lane so that your player can play it to you. It's something I mention as well, I believe, a lot when it's you're not getting the ball enough. Well, are you getting into passing lanes? Are you getting into pockets of space? So just something to throw in there. Make sure you're creating passing passing lanes for yourself, especially if you're trying to receive the ball in a more midfield position or just trying to receive the ball in general. You need to create those passing lanes. Sometimes it just means going to your left a little bit more than you already are. Because again, there might be a defender or an opposition player cutting off the passing lane, but if you were to move a little bit away from that, you would suddenly have a passing lane open to you. And number 5 is look to change speed and tempo. I already mentioned Lampard, who's a good example of a previous player who does this. De Bruyne does this as well, to give you a more modern day player. And it's knowing, again, it's not always about sprinting around everywhere and bursting into space. Sometimes you want to do that, but sometimes you'll just be jogging along and then you'll burst into space. You want to be changing speed, almost make it look like you're not going to make the run, and then you kind of see, lock eyes with the player who's going to pass you the ball into space and then make that move. Or sometimes it'll be you'll make that move, slow down, and then players will move away from you, again, like I said, be drawn to something else, and you'll be in that pocket of space despite, kind of just like jogging around. Again, watch Lampard to get an idea of this. The amount of times he would do this, get the ball in the edge of the box and score, or play a player in, or first time it to someone, was all the time. He was an expert at this. He had this almost like lazy movement, and then he would burst, or he would just kind of jog around, and players would sometimes even just forget about him or think he's not being a threat, but he's doing it intentionally. There's a strategy behind it, and then he would find himself in these pockets of space. So there's different tempos and movements you can use. It doesn't always have to be a quick, long bursting run. But just to really be changing up your speed and tempo to find those pockets of space, to keep defenders on their toes, and just to be experimenting with this, because it can be very useful in getting you the space you need to get the ball, to get in behind, and so much more. Now, as you're getting the ball more and you're getting into more of these dangerous positions, you're going to want to watch this video next, where I go over 3 habits that will make you a beast in football. Again, what we went over here is going to go a long way in doing that, because a lot of players, they don't have good movement. So this, combined with that, is going to go a long way to creating you or making you a standout player.